I joined the military back in 2002. I joined right after 9/11 happened. After 9/11, I got all patriotic, like a lot of Americans at the time, and I decided I was going to join the military. I looked at all the services, and ultimately I ended up going with the U.S. Navy. I joined the Navy as a nuclear reactor operator for submarines. I did that for about 4 years, and then I got my degree and leveled up into the officer realm. And from there on, I spent my time doing mostly IT and cybersecurity for the last 16 years in the Navy, and then retired in 2022 and have gone on to do my own thing in my company, Dion Training. Dion Training actually started kind of by accident. So in the Navy, there's a program called the Permanent Military Professor Program, and I wanted to apply for that program. And if you get accepted for that program, you become a college professor at the Naval Academy, and you basically spend the rest of your Navy career just being an instructor at the Naval Academy. And I thought I'd be a great fit for that, and I wanted to do that. But unfortunately, you need to have teaching experience to be able to be eligible for that program. So while I was working up at the National Security Agency, I took a job on the nights and weekends working at a local community college and got some experience teaching. Then I got experience at the bachelor's level and then at the master's level at different colleges. And all during this time, I was building up my teaching experience, and then I applied for that program. And unfortunately, the year I applied, they no longer needed cybersecurity folks because they had just hired a whole bunch over the last couple of years. And they're like, well, we don't need any more. So I ended up not being able to do that. But I really enjoyed teaching that I was doing in the classroom. Well, my time at the NSA left, and I was moving back to the Navy. And in the Navy, we move a lot and we travel a lot. And I was in a job that was about 80% travel. So I couldn't teach in the classroom anymore. So I took my last set of classes that I did, which was for the A+ Core 2 exam, and I filmed it and put it on YouTube. And I thought, well, at least this way my students can get access to it, and maybe we'll make a little bit of money off of advertising revenue or things like that. And then somebody introduced me to Udemy, which is an online marketplace for learning, and we moved our courses over there. We started making some decent money. So we then turned it into a company, and then as I ran out of time, because I was still full-time active duty at this point, I was at my 15, 16, 17 year points, I ended up hiring additional help. And at this point now, by the time I retired from the military at 20 years, the company had already been doing really well. We've gotten 20 plus employees at that point, and everybody else was full-time except for me. And now that I've retired, I'm able to be full-time in the company as well. So I am the lead instructor at Dion Training, and I'm one of 3 instructors we have. The other 2 instructors came to us through SkillBridge, and they've now been hired on in full-time jobs as well. And both of them love the company so far, from what I can tell, and enjoy their role. And again, it's continuing to grow. And really the great thing that we love about Dion Training is that we're able to help so many students all over the world. At this point, we've had over 1 million students over the last 5 years. And most of that was done as a part-time thing, as a side hustle while I was still in the Navy. And now that I'm retired and doing it full-time, we're able to just further expand from there. The funny thing is, when I started doing this, a couple years in, we had already had some contracts with Udemy and some other places, including Skillsoft. And Skillsoft has a contract with the DoD. So as I'm sitting at work in my Navy uniform, I'm looking across the room and I see somebody else is watching me on a computer screen because they're taking my Security Plus course that happens to be inside of the NSA's network because they have this contract with this company that we had a contract with. So I thought that was kind of crazy and unique. And so, yeah, I mean, there's so much of the stuff we teach is just so directly usable by our military folks, because inside the military, whether you're going to stay active duty, whether you're retired, whether you're going to become a contractor or a government civilian, if you're still working in and around the military, you're still going to be forced to comply with the DoD 8570. And the 8570 says you have to be certified with the right certifications for the job you want. And most of the time, this is things like A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, CISA Plus, Pentest Plus, CISSP, PMP, things like that. And we teach most or all of those courses. And so we have a direct impact on being able to help people get their goals and get into those contracting jobs by getting these certifications. So if you're already in that field because you're an IT or a CTN in the Navy, or a 25 Bravo or 17 Bravo in the Air Force or the Army, these are skills you're already going to have, or you're going to need to get these certifications. And so we're there to help you with that. In addition to that, as you're transitioning out of the military, if you're not in one of those fields, you can go and take these type of courses to get the certifications you need to become a government contractor, because there's so much opportunity, especially if you're in a field where you already have a security clearance. For example, one of the instructors we hired through the SkillBridge program, he's not a traditional cybersecurity guy. He came from an intelligence background. He was an intelligence officer in the Air Force, and so he has a clearance. And so if he wanted to go be a cybersecurity person, it wouldn't be a hard thing for him to get into that role by having a couple of key certifications, because he already had a secret or a top secret clearance. And so the NSA would love him, the CIA would love him, all their contractors would love him, and they would bring him right in. Even though he wasn't a cyber person, he can become a cyber person really quickly by a couple of key certifications and training. And so we help a lot of our transitioning vets move into those type of roles. If they already have a security clearance, it's really easy. If you don't have a security clearance, it's a little bit harder, but still doable and easy to do. And I think the other big thing that's important for veterans to know is that just because you did something in the military doesn't mean that's going to be the career you're going to do when you get out of the military. Up to this point, we've had 3 SkillBridge interns, and all 3 of them have turned into full-time positions for our folks. 2 of them were as instructors. 1 of them was as a developer. And the developer is actually a pretty interesting one because he was a MA, which is a Master at Arms. Basically, think military police for those of you who aren't Navy. He's a military policeman, right? And he got into our SkillBridge program to learn how to be a coder, a developer for websites. And he is now a full-stack developer. He is, got a full-time job with us, being a full-stack developer after a 6-month internship with us, and he's doing great. He's one of the better programmers that we have on the team. And so just because you were a Master at Arms or you were a rifleman, it doesn't mean that's what you have to be when you get out. There's lots of opportunities out there. It's just a matter of figuring out what you want to do, putting yourself in the right position with the right SkillBridge partner to be able to get the right training and the right experience. And that way, even if you're not hired on by that partner, you still have now 6 months of workplace experience in that thing. Instead of just saying, yeah, I was a military policeman for 4 years or 6 years, that's not good enough to become a programmer, right? But if you have the right attitude and you get some training under your belt, you could move into a junior analyst role or junior programming role. And that's exactly what happened with Enrique on our team. Dion Training is really happy to be partnered with 7 Eagle. We've gotten all of our SkillBridge interns up to this point through 7 Eagle, and all of them have turned into hires at the end because they brought us great candidates. So from an employer side, we really like the relationship we have with 7 Eagle. The ability for them to screen through all of the hundreds and thousands of applicants that they have or people who want internships and be able to find out which organization is best suited for that candidate. For example, we've looked into becoming our own SkillBridge organization as well. And the biggest problem with that is now we are going to be flooded with applications that we now have to go through. We have to find out who is the best person for our roles, and it can become pretty overwhelming. In addition to that, if you've ever worked with the military, there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of bureaucracy. And the great thing for an employer when we're working with somebody like 7 Eagle Group is that you guys take care of all of the hassle and the training plans and everything else that needs to be done to make sure you're compliant with SkillBridge and the intent of the program. And that's better for the soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine, as well as for the company. Now, on the other side, for the military member side, why is 7 Eagle a great place to look? Well, it really comes down to the fact that they have relationships with lots of different companies. So instead of you having to go out and look at Dion Training and Cisco and Facebook and Total Seminars and all the other companies that are out there in the space that you're looking at, you can just go to 7 Eagle and say, this is the type of job I'm looking for, this is where I want to be, and they'll help you come up with a training plan, and they'll help place you into one of these internships at a company that does that thing. So I know 7 Eagle has relationships with Cisco in the past. They have security operations centers. They've got training companies like us. And being able to do that really does help put you into the right place at the right time so that you can move in your transition from the military into a civilian or contract position.
I was a cyber transport technician. So that's initially how I started out. And so initially I got into deployable comms. So I used to work on a lot of different remote networks. I built networks from the ground up. So infrastructure is mostly what we're focused on. Routing, switching, all those things. And then I switched to a kind of like a operations center for the air operations for the Air Force. And then I got to a more of a system administrator and networking administrator type of role. So that encompassed working with Active Directory, firewalls, Palo Alto firewalls, dealing with a lot of different types of HIPs, host-based intrusion protection systems, and just a lot of communications networking. The biggest thing that in my position is creating and explaining courses for things in the cybersecurity and cloud community. And that's something I'm very passionate about. I love cybersecurity. And so it pretty much gives me a way to get all the certifications that I love, learn as much as I can as possible, and then teach it to others. And it's been a great ride so far. Well, you can't really talk about Dion Training unless you talk about Jason Dion. And so he's clearly the person that moved me over to stand there. I mean, he just has an awesome personality. I've never worked for a boss as great as Jason. Honestly, just such a generous. I've never seen him frown. I don't even know if it's like mouth does this way. It always is in a smile position. So yeah, he's very knowledgeable. He's very knowledgeable. So you can tell by how he explains things, and just his breadth of knowledge is very inspiring. It kind of makes you want to follow his footsteps when it comes to all the information he knows and how he's able to relate to students and pretty much turn a very technical information and dumb it down to a position where people who are new in the career field are able to understand it. And you can see from his reviews and you see from the amount of students he have how awesome of a job he's doing. So if it wasn't for Seven Eagle, I would never find Dion training. I mean, honestly, they're able to look at you, see your personality, and look at your background and able to fit you directly into who you need to be with.
I just finished up 4 years of active duty. I was an Air Force intelligence officer specializing in cyber intelligence. I worked over at Fort Meade for 3 years. And now that I am in the civilian workforce, I'm working for Dion Training full-time, and it has been an absolutely outstanding experience. I've been able to leverage my project management skills as an officer, and now I am the lead instructor over at Dion Training for their project management portfolio and data analysis. Jason and I hit it off immediately, and I was really, really thankful for Seven Eagle to put us in contact. So as a former intelligence officer, I'm able to leverage my briefing skills and develop course content and video instruction for anyone really that's interested in learning about cybersecurity, project management, etc. Anything that Dion Training does. But working with Jason, he has been an outstanding mentor for me, especially because we're cut from the same cloth with the military background. He just retired from the Navy, and I was transitioning out of the active duty Air Force. So it has really been wonderful working with Jason. Once you finish up your service to our country, you really want to carry forward that love of mission, right? Regardless if you're on the flight line, turning wrenches on jets, or you're doing cyber, or you're doing intel, whatever your job is, if you're a grunt, being able to be a part of a company that still has a mission, and especially something that's focused on training, where I really love cyber and I love IT, because in the grand scheme of things, right, you can take a military person or you can take anyone, and if they could demonstrate the skills necessary for that job, you don't need a degree necessarily. If you can demonstrate the skills, you can get a very well-paying job, and you can really do what you love. It offers flexibility, and I am incredibly thankful to the team at Seven Eagle, and put me into contact with all kinds of opportunities, and I don't think I would be where I am today without the help of Seven Eagle.
I ended up taking a few courses in coding. I had an interest in it before I joined the military. I just never really pursued it. So I did take a few courses, and I fell in love with it. I found my passion for it again, and that's when I reached out to Seven Eagle Group, because it was towards the end of my contract, and thanks to Seven Eagle Group, you guys connected me to Dion Training, and Dion Training definitely, like, I've learned a lot in Dion Training, just so much when it comes to working with databases and deploying website. I was able to grow my knowledge, just increase my knowledge in the software development field towards becoming a full stack developer. Thanks to what they have taught me, they've even given me an offer, which I've accepted, just because the company is really great. They're really military friendly, especially, the owner has a military background, so he understands military a lot. They've definitely taken away that stress of what am I gonna do when I transition out of the military. But it's great stuff. I'm loving it. I'm loving so far what I do. Of course, that's what the whole skill bridge is, to get a job based on what you want to do as you transition out of the military. But I'm loving it so far. I do appreciate Seven Eagle Group. It was thanks to them that I got in contact with Dion Training, and I appreciate what they do. I appreciate the work that they do, helping military members like myself as we transition out of the military, because it could be really tough, especially stressful, because as we transition back into the civilian world, it's just so much of the unknown. So, like, when it comes to getting a job, first of all, paying for bills, supporting myself, finding a new passion. And thanks to companies like Seven Eagle Group, I mean, they take that stress away, and it's amazing. It feels great, and I really appreciate it. I love it.